sports. I'll take the Sooners. You got great NFL last night, coming up this weekend. Now, there's a lot of good games this weekend. There's a lot of good NFL games. Obviously, the Baker Mayfield stuff is highly, wildly entertaining. He was a great college player. I didn't like his off-the-field nonsense. I came out, I put him on the couch. We went back and forth, and I'm going to be forever linked to him, and him not necessarily to me, but I'll be linked to him forever. And so he plays this weekend against Baltimore. Baltimore's my dark horse Super Bowl pick. I love the Ravens this year, and they give rookie quarterbacks a lot of trouble. And you can't score on them in the second half, but I think this is going to be a very good weekend for all the rookie quarterbacks. And I'll get into that later, but I think it's a very good weekend for all the rookie quarterbacks. But do you want some context to stuff, or you just want to sit next to drunk guys at a bar? I mean, that's why you're listening to the show, right? For a little context on stuff. That's what I do for a living. If you go to a dentist, he fixes teeth. I dig deep on data and stuff for sports. So just think about this with Baker Mayfield. Here's the big thing to remember, and it's not a small thing. In college, if you stay 2 extra years, you get a master's degree. Otherwise, you just get an associate's degree or a bachelor degree. Baker Mayfield, of all these rookie quarterbacks, is the only one with a master's. He used all 5 years of his eligibility. He's got 48 starts in college. Josh Rosen, Arizona Cardinals, 30. Sam Darnold, Jets, 27. Josh Allen, Wyoming, now with the Buffalo Bills, 27. Okay, Baker Mayfield is significantly more experienced than all these guys. He should be better at this moment, his second start in the NFL. He should be more refined in this moment. I don't think he has the ceiling of Darnold. I don't know if he has the ceiling of Rosen, but he should be better today. Sam Darnold had 2 years left. He redshirted and then left early. Josh Rosen didn't redshirt. Josh Rosen could have redshirted for a year, learned the system, and then stayed another year. Darnold and Rosen combined left 4 years on the table of college. Baker used all 5 years. He's 2 years older than Darnold. When you're in your early 20s, 2 years is a lot. Go to your life, Joy. The difference between you at 19 and 21. Were you a different person?
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, it's now if you're 48 to 50, you're the same old cranky dude. Okay, but it's a big deal. Baker is much more experienced. And by the way, Baker's also had an advantage on all these quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield in college had Cliff Kingsbury, Texas Tech. Really good offensive guy. Then he went to Lincoln Riley, great offensive guy to Oklahoma. Now he's got Todd Haley and Hugh Jackson, respected offensive guys. Josh Rosen had a defensive coach at UCLA, got fired, and now he has a defensive rookie coach at Arizona. Sam Darnold, defensive head coach. Josh Allen at Wyoming had a defensive-minded head coach in college, and now Buffalo's head coach, McDermott, is a defensive guy. So Baker Mayfield is older. Check. Almost double the starts in college. Check. He's had a much better series of offensive coaches to this point. Check, check, check. He should be better. If you spend 2 more years in college and get your master's, Darnold and Rosen have bachelors. I mean, God, one guy played at Oklahoma. That's an associate's degree. That doesn't even count as a bachelor's. So, yes, he should be better now. And he is right now, this second. I said it before. He looks really buttoned up right now. He does. He looks more experienced. Hell, Sam Darnold only had 7 college starts out of the state of California. It's going to take him a while. Plus, he's 2 years younger. I think all these rookie quarterbacks, I mean, God, Ravens defensive coordinator Don Martindale, I'm hearing him talk this weekend. I'm like, Don, bring it down a little, babe.
I think Baker Mayfield's this generation's a Brett Favre, John Elway, if you will. Geez. I mean, this guy knows where he wants to go with the ball, and he's very accurate. He has a quick release, and he's really playing well. So, obviously he's playing well. They scored 42 points, last week against Oakland. He's done a nice job filling in, and it seems like they have more rhythm with him as a rookie every play that he's in there.
Don't you think if you came out of law school and you were 2 years older than the other lawyers, and you would work with better lawyers than the other lawyers your age, but you were older than them, and you had 2 previous years' experience that you used up in a law firm as an intern that they didn't have? Don't you think you'd be at 23 or 24 out of law school, you would be at that point a little more refined, a little sharper, a little more on point, a little more knowledgeable? Well, of course you would. But the question's not today. The question is in 13 years. That's why you draft all these guys in the first round. 13 years later, what do you get? It's not. I just think Baker's closer to his ceiling now than everybody else. Just do basic homework. Of course he is. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
We just love comparing rookies to Hall of Famers, huh?
People are crazy. Like Patrick Mahomes has never played in hail or snow, and he plays in Kansas City.
He play in hail?
Oh, Kansas City's got terrible weather. I think Kansas City has
hail.
Oh no! Kansas City gets. Kansas City gets
they're going to call the game off for hail.
No. Kansas City's the only place in the league. They get lightning. They get hail.
Pittsburgh gets hail.
Pittsburgh gets cold and snow.
Pittsburgh gets hail.
I'm telling you right now.
Like this.
Kansas City's weather is the worst in the league. Dry, hot in the summer.
I would argue with that, but I don't think if they have fans out there in hail, I feel like that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. I think you got to call the game off.
Big golf ball hail,
yeah. That doesn't work. But anyway, we love comparing young guys to Hall of Famers. You just mentioned Don Martindale. Well, Todd Haley responded to Don Martindale's praise of Baker Mayfield.
He's carving a bust. I'll hold my stance. I'm excited about a lot of the things he's doing, but like I said, this week will be a real test. We'll know a lot more come Sunday evening.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good game. Baltimore's really good, but Baltimore came off that huge Steeler game, highly emotional rivalry game. In the NFL, if teams look bad, they generally look good the next week, and if teams come off big emotional wins, they come down. So I think Baltimore-Cleveland is a really entertaining game.
It's a good test for Baker Mayfield, like you said, especially in the division.
John brings up a good point. We got coordinators doing press conferences in Cleveland. Belichick doesn't even let his coordinators talk.
What do we said? You don't have to necessarily be good to be interesting. That's what's happening. So the UFC 229 press conference had a unique twist yesterday. Neither Habib or Conor were on stage together at the same time.
This is going to be great.
Let's watch this.
Hey, guys, 15 minutes. 15 minutes, I'm here. This guy didn't come. This is big disrespect. See you tomorrow, guys. Have a good night.
He knew what he signed up for. I've been late in this. The traffic is a little heavy. There must be a McGregor fight going on. I don't know where the little fool is. He's better off running anyway. You know yourself, I bet you he was saying a load of up here. He didn't say anything the last time, so, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. These things happen.
Conor is going to destroy him. Everybody's on this.
You think so?
First of all, Conor is a taller, he is a twitchier athlete. He's a better stand-up fighter. He's more experienced. He's been in these big... That Mayweather fight, do you think anybody else in MMA could have fought Mayweather?
No,
and by the way, Mayweather dominated, but it was a very respectable showing by... You think Habib faces Mayweather and it would be over in 3 minutes?
No, I agree. It was a respectable showing by Conor. It was a good, entertaining fight. But Conor hasn't fought in UFC in almost 2 years. A little over 2 years.
Kobe Bryant can take a year off, still hit free throws with his eyes closed.
He's not hitting free throws. He's getting hit in the face.
This guy, Conor, it's going to be all these MMA guys. These MMA fans are so funny. You don't know the sport like I do. No, I don't have to watch as much to figure it out. I don't have to sit and watch every UFC card to figure out. Conor's the only chance Habib has is getting him down to the mat. And by the way, Conor doesn't let that stuff happen. He just look at you and kick you away and won't go down there.
That was a good kick by you.
By the way, I have already spent the money on my bet. I've already bought my wife a beautiful present. I've already bought the present. Like I've already spent the money before.
You're that confident.
Oh, come on. Conor's way. It's not even... You look at those two guys. One guy is like, I'm disrespected. The other guy's laughing. You can tell a lot about a press conference. One guy was uptight. One guy's laughing.
Conor is a master at press conferences and the media. Like that's just not even comparable.
I cannot wait for that fight.
Well, it'll be a good fight for sure, and I'm sure everyone in UFC is glad that McGregor is back. Finally, Kyrie Irving doesn't appear to be headed anywhere next offseason, according to Kyrie Irving. He spoke to fans gathered inside TD Garden last night and had this to say.
Shared it with some of my teammates as well as the organization and everyone else in Boston. You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
Of course he is. Of course.
Well, it does kind of kill the dream of him going to New York and
By the way,
reviving the Knicks.
You know what it is sometimes? I think a lot of NBA writers want the Knicks to be good.
Right.
So they're rooting for Jimmy Butler and Kyrie Irving to end up in New York. Jimmy Butler's going to be a Miami Heat in about 5 minutes, and Kyrie Irving's like, I'm going to stay with the Celtics. Listen, man, Brad Stevens... Why would a point guard leave Brad Stevens? Like, Brad Stevens has made rookies look great. Brad Stevens is going to make you the best you can be. You're not going to leave that for the dysfunction of New York. New York's one of those cities, like, New York's great. But, God, how many years LeBron was going to go there? D. Wade was going to go there. Chris Paul was going to go there. Nobody ends up going to the Knicks. It's a pipe dream. It's what everybody wants to happen that covers the NBA. Nobody ends up going there.
And James Dolan still owns the Knicks, so
he's still exactly, Joey. So nobody wants to be aligned with that.
Deal with that.
Yeah. Joy Taylor with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
30 minutes away, Blazing 5. So fired up. Now one of my favorite guys in the world. Covers the Patriots, covers everybody from Monday Morning Quarterback. We have a big weekend planned. Albert Breer via the Coward Global Satellite Network. Okay, so basically if the Miami Dolphins lose against the Bengals, which is possible, New England leads the division because they beat Miami head-to-head. What was your takeaway on the performance, the good, the bad, the ugly last night for the Patriots?
I mean, the first takeaway, Colin, is just how the Patriots approach the season. And if you've talked to enough people there, you can go back to the advent of the new CBA in 2011. They've really gradually started to treat the first month of the season as an extended preseason because, you know, they run complex systems on both sides of the ball. They want to be difficult to deal with later in the year. And because they've got Brady and Belichick, they've got the luxury to do it this way. And so we've seen it the last couple of years. They got blown out by the Chiefs in the opener in 2017. A few weeks later, they get run over by the Carolina Panthers at home. And lo and behold, they work all of it out, and they wind up in the Super Bowl at the end of the year. So this has sort of become par for the course in New England under the 2011 CBA, where they've really used the first month of the regular season as a chance to work things out. Most teams can't do it because most teams don't know that, you know, A, they're going to be in the playoffs, and B, they're probably going to be playing at home when they get there. The Patriots usually have a pretty good feeling that they're going to win the AFC East, that they're going to be in contention for home field no matter what. And so they've been able the last few years to use September kind of as a time to work things out.
By the way, Nate Solder, the Giants are 1-3. Malcolm Butler's off to a terrible start. Dion Lewis didn't have any rushing yards against Philadelphia, and Sony Michel looked good for the Patriots. You know, Bill Belichick once again let very popular guys go. None are flourishing. And I watched Sony Michel, that running back, last night, and I thought to myself, oh, he's a cheaper Dion Lewis. You know, once again, we crushed Belichick for Malcolm Butler, but none of the guys that left are flourishing. They all look overpaid, don't they?
Well, let's tap the brakes, Bill. Dion Lewis did have a key fourth down picked up in that Tennessee game in overtime. But you're right. I mean, this is one of the things that they've done really well traditionally. And this is such an underrated thing. We always look at who's bringing in the best free agents, who's doing the best in the draft. One of the most important parts of building an NFL team is being able to assess your own talent and being able to look objectively at the guys in your locker room. And Bill's always been really, really good at that. Nate Solder wasn't perfect the last few years. If you want to rewind it back to the Atlanta Super Bowl, you'll see a very old Dwight Freeney having his way with Nate Solder. And so Nate was a great piece here for a long, long time, but they looked at him and said, we can't justify paying him $15 million per year. And they were able to find a suitable replacement in Trent Brown. They got ahead of losing Malcolm Butler by signing Stephon Gilmore a year early. And if you look at it early on last year, that looked like a bad decision that winds up working out in the end. And then they get Sony Michel, of course, as you mentioned, to replace Dion Lewis. That's one of the things they do really well. You can certainly criticize some of their free agent signings over the years. You can certainly criticize the way that they've drafted, but they've always been very, very good at looking inside their building and being able to assess those guys objectively. And remember, it's harder to do that when you've won championships with guys. The emotions can tug on you. You can look at certain guys and say, this guy helped us win a championship. We want to reward him. one of the things that Bill does best. He can take a cold look at each individual guy and make an assessment of them.
All right, I got one guy comparing Baker Mayfield to Favre and Elway, and I'm like, can we pump the brakes? He's 0-1 as a starter. I do think he's 2 years older than the other rookie quarterbacks, double the starts, and he's had very good offensive coaching through college and now in the NFL. He is a more refined pocket thrower this second than the other guys. But, what are your sources saying about Baker? Should we pump the brakes? What are your guys saying around the league on Baker?
Well, one of the most interesting things, just talking to the Cleveland coaches this week, is how a lot of the hiccups that we saw in that game against the Raiders, they really weren't on Baker. I know Hugh Jackson publicly pointed out the 9 drops. A couple guys have mentioned that to me privately as well. The botched snap, that wasn't really on him. And one of the things that they like best about him is the way that he's been able to fight through these things. When things go sideways, that's when some rookie quarterbacks can kind of fall off a little bit or struggle. And you certainly didn't see that with Baker. He kept fighting as that game went on. And so that shows, quarterbacks got great makeup for the game. And you mentioned the offensive coaching he's had. I'll tell you this, Colin. People in the NFL right now believe that Lincoln Riley is one of the top 5 offensive coaches on the planet. Anywhere. And the fact that he comes from that system, the fact that he was able to play for Lincoln Riley, just from the quarterback coaching standpoint, really put him in a position to develop over the last 3 years. And what you're seeing, and not all of it's translatable to the NFL, of course, what he learned at Oklahoma, but what you're seeing, 2 very important qualities. 1, he's very accurate with the ball, and 2, his decision-making, for the most part, was off the charts at Oklahoma. If you have those 2 things coming into the league, that's a pretty good starting point, and Baker certainly has those things in spades.
Senior NFL reporter, Monday morning quarterback, former Patriot beat writer for the Boston Globe, Albert Breer, joining us live. Let's look ahead. Atlanta can score a lot of points, and they're at Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh can't stop anybody. Let's say Atlanta goes in. The weather's still not a factor for the Dome Atlanta Falcons. They go on the road, they win. And, listen, Mike Tomlin's won Super Bowls, but if Pittsburgh, with all these stars and all this offensive firepower and all this money, does Pittsburgh get to a point? Now, I think they've always been incredibly patient. 3 coaches since 1969. But if they lose to Atlanta and Baltimore looks great again, could there be a little panic that we got to get Le'Veon Bell in now? What do you think? That's the Pittsburgh situation, your gut feeling, because they are giving up a lot of points and Atlanta can score them.
Yeah, and certainly losing Ryan Shazier was something that they weren't prepared for, obviously. And I think it's something that's really hit them in a certain way in the defensive side of the ball, where they felt like they had a lot of young players that were developing and coming together, and that sort of threw things haywire on that side. I don't think there's any panic in Pittsburgh. I don't think they're going to bend to Le'Veon Bell. It hasn't been their history to do that sort of thing. And I don't think that they're going to go any sort of extra mile to get him in there. I think they're going to try to continue to evolve offensively. Losing Todd Haley was a hit, but they've got the young kid, Washington from Oklahoma State, who they believe in, who they believe can develop. Juju Smith-Schuster, I think they believe he can be a #1 receiver down the line. James Conner, look, he's been up and down the first few weeks of the season, but they believe in him as well. There's a group of young players there. It's not going to be one person that's going to do it, but there's a group of young players there that they believe can make up for the loss of Le'Veon Bell, at least in the short term. And look, they've been through this before. There was a period right after they went to that Super Bowl and lost to the Packers where they leveled off a little bit, and they had a couple 8-8 years there. They were able to bounce back from that. It's interesting because they're right at the end of what feels like the end of the window there with the Bell, Le'Veon, Ben group. It'll be interesting to see what they do going forward, but they've drafted well enough at the offensive skill positions that they believe that after adjusting to Randy Fichtner as the offensive coordinator, after Ben adjusts the weapons around him, that they can get through this. I think the bigger issues for the Steelers, as you said, are on the defensive side of the ball, and particularly at that inside linebacker position that traditionally has been so important in that defense.
Albert Breer, great talking to you. Have a great weekend. Thanks, bud.
All right, thanks, Colin. Enjoy the games.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's going to be very interesting. You know what's happened with all these NFL rule changes? That they've all helped the offense, right? We have more points being scored, more touchdown passes. You can't deny that. Well, what's happening is, just think about this on a macro level. It's the offensive kids getting drafted in college are the bust rate is dropping for receivers. The bust rate's dropping for backs. The bust rate is dropping for quarterbacks. The bottom line is it is easier to draft offensive guys now than defensive guys because the rules help offensive players. So if you got to fix your defense, that can be tough. But if you got to fix your offense, all the rules benefit offensive players. And the NFL is using more college stuff than they've ever used. So the transition college to the NFL is getting easier for offensive players and still really tough for defensive players. So does that change the way you draft? I mean, I look at some of these NFL teams, they don't whiff on their offensive picks. They just don't. Pittsburgh's one of them. They don't whiff on their offensive picks. They whiff on some of the defensive guys, not the offensive guys. Coming up next. Oh, yeah. Take a deep breath. Blazing 5, by the way, in 25 minutes. Coming up next, Richard Sherman is complaining again, and he went to Stanford. He's a smart guy, right? Stanford, you got to be smart to get into Stanford. But Richard Sherman said something. He's completely wrong about it. It's more whining from defensive NFL players, and I'll just go to facts. Go to facts. That's not much of a tease, right? I'm going to give you actually facts in football, and I'm about done with defensive players whining in this league. That's coming up next. Tommy John, guys, close your eyes. You're at a tailgate party. If you were just in your underwear and everybody could see it, would you be proud of it? The tighty-whities? No, you would not. Why not go for the revolutionary clothing brand that's redefining comfort for men and women with underwear and T-shirts? Tommy John obsesses over every little detail, stitch by stitch, fabrics that don't feel like anything you've ever worn before. Comfortable, stay-put waistbands. Luxurious, soft, feather light, breathable, moves with you, not against you, and it never shrinks, ever. I've got the same 7-8 T-shirts I've had now for 4 years. They're so confident you'll love your first pair, you'll get a full refund if you don't like it. It's Tommy John's best pair you'll ever wear, or it's free guarantee. They also have life-changing women's underwear, fully stocked again. Go to TommyJohn.com, code HERD, H-E-R-D, for 20% off. TommyJohn.com, what I wear, code HERD.